4 years ago, I got a data scientist job paying me well over 50,000 euros without any experience. I look back and I found that I actually did this in 3 easy steps. Speaking with so many other friends who are data scientists now, big colleagues, I listened to how they got their first data role, and I see that the process is actually similar. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you what were the 3 easy steps that I followed to get my first data role. And if you follow through to the end of this video, I'm going to be telling you the name of the company. Follow me. So, what was the step 1? I sent quality CVs. Today I found that I am on the other hand of trying to hire someone into my team, into a data team, and I look at the kind of CVs I receive, and I have to say that there's a lot of people on the job market who most likely are doing a lot of things wrong. So you see people who don't send quality CV. You want to apply to get a data scientist job or a data analyst job, but you're sending CVs that give the impression that you are a software developer or give the impression that you are a research assistant. Those are two different things. So the first step to trying to get yourself into the room is to pass through the door. The door is to pass through the HR. So you want to send quality CVs. I see people, for example, also send cover letters, and then they send cover letters to one cover letter to like 5 companies. What they do is then they change the name of the company and then they replace it with the name of the other company. It's not done that way. In fact, one interesting case that I saw, I showed it to my wife, was I saw someone send me a cover letter that belonged to another company. The person tried to change the name of the company to my company, but then forgot to change the name somewhere in the middle of the cover letter, and it was very glaring. Also, with the way the structure of the cover letter was, I actually was asking myself, was this cover letter sent to me? Was it for this job? And I think that that's the mistake a lot of people who are trying to get their first data role they make. Send quality CVs. If you're sending a cover letter, send quality cover letters as well. That first of all gives the impression, in the simplest form, that you're a serious person. One advice that I got when I was going to apply for my first data role after I finished my bootcamp was that I should send minimum 2 quality CVs every day I was going to be applying for a job. And what that meant was reading carefully through the job description, reading to see what the job was all about, what was I required, what was the requirement, what kind of stack the job description required. And then when I read the stack and I read the job description, I then carefully sit down and make a proper application, make my CV. Oftentimes I actually find that I tailor my CV for specific jobs, and that CV might not even be usable for another job application. Or I write a cover letter that really shows what is my intent of why am I really applying for that particular job. So I find people trying to say, oh, I sent 700 applications or I sent 800 applications, and I think you don't need up to that really. When I look at it, what you need to do, every job out there is not for you. So what you need to do is to look at which job am I really qualified for? Do I have the years of experience? Like I said, like I should really say, is that I'm not saying you have to get all of the job description. You have to be 100% fit. When you are 80, 75, you're good to go. Apply, and then you never know what happens. But when you're sending that application, you need to make sure that it is quality. That's very important. So if you're sending an application, you need to make sure that it is quality. You need to make sure that it's the right thing to send. Don't just send something shabby. You will most likely be rejected. And that is the mistake that I see people make these days. If you send the wrong application, if you send the wrong CV, if you send the wrong cover letter, you would most likely be rejected, because you have to also imagine that there are hundreds of other people trying to get the same job like you. So the hiring manager doesn't have so much time. You basically maybe sometimes even have less than 30 seconds to really get your message out there to the person that I'm the person you're looking for. So if you're editing your CV or your cover letter to just change the name of the company to another one, it just shows that you maybe not ready or you are not a serious kind of person. So the first step we want to do when we want to get our first data role is to send quality CVs, send quality applications, send quality cover letters, read carefully through the job description, and send the best CV you can send the best cover letter you can send. If you need someone to go through your CV, you can speak with an HR friend to say, check this for me, do you think this is right? Or check this for me, do you think my cover letter is good enough? And then they would be able to give you their remarks. The number 2 step of what we want to do, remember I'm sharing 3 steps that I did to get my first data role. The second thing you want to do is you want to master the basics. So if you're trying to get your first data role, you don't have any experience, there is a very big chance that people are going to want to ask you what your knowledge of things are. You see, one of the things I found in the whole in the recent job market for data, in the data space, is you see the entry level is really crowded. So if you're trying to get an entry level role, you have a lot of people that you're trying to compete against. And so when you get into that interview, anybody who is inviting you to the interview after you've sent your quality CV, they definitely want to know if you really understand what you claim to understand. They want to know what is your understanding of Python, for example, if the job requires Python. If the job requires R, they definitely want to understand what is your understanding of R as well. For Python, they probably would ask you questions around functions, what do you do, how do you make sure that your code is clean, because you're going to be sharing your code with your colleagues on the team. They're going to be asking you questions. If it's SQL, for example, they're going to be asking you questions around CTE. So you need to really understand those basics. The basic foundation needs to be there. Maybe as you climb up the ladder and you stack up years of experience, people maybe don't bother you about that because probably there are bigger fishes to fry at that point. But when you're trying to get your first data role, definitely I tell you, a lot of people will be very interested in understanding, in seeing your understanding of the basics of everything. Machine learning, for example, if you're trying to get a data scientist role, they're going to want to know what is your understanding of trees, how do you understand linear regression, SVMs, and the likes. What have you done with them? So they're going to want to understand what is the mathematical equation of logistic regression. How did they come by logistic regression, the logistic function? How does it work? How does the whole system work? So you really want to understand all of that before you apply for jobs. So that's why I tell people, take the time to really learn what you're trying to apply for. So if you send a very quality CV, or even sometimes I see people get people to actually write their CV for them, which I don't buy that idea, but anyways, people write their CV for them, then they come into the interview and they basically blow it up. You then begin to wonder as an hiring manager, was it the same person that sent me this CV that actually is in my front trying to do this? Or somebody is even looking at your screen and you know that they're trying to just type the questions and trying to send you an answer. They would definitely figure it out if it is not something that comes natural to you with the answers. Of course, nobody's expecting that. I personally would not be expecting that you should know everything, but you should understand the basics. They are just some unforgivable basics that if you're trying to get a data analyst role or a data scientist role or a data engineering role, that you should understand. And that's basically how it works. You should definitely understand the basics before you send in a job application. Understand the basics of SQL, like I said, Python, R. If you're trying to apply for a data engineering role, Airflow, and all of those basic CTEs for SQL and all of those basics. You need to understand the basics, and that will stand you out in the interview. Now, to the third thing I want to talk about, which is the last thing, you want to also build projects. I can't mention that enough, really. If you're trying to get your first data role, I said earlier that if you look at the entry level space, there's a lot of people trying to get in there. One big thing that will stand you out would not be if you probably attended a bootcamp or a very expensive bootcamp, or you have a master's in data science. That's fine, really, that's good. I think that's an advantage. But people would like to see your project, basic things like building a basic machine learning project. I always advise, if you build a machine learning app or machine learning project, build an app around it. You can easily deploy some of these things on Streamlit. I remember one story of mine when I got my first data role. I was in this interview with this hiring manager, and then they were asking me all of the questions. They had gone through my GitHub, seen some of the project that I had done, and I told them, oh, look at this project that I did. And I basically just brought out my laptop and I said, this is the link, you can also try the app out. That what I basically just saw in the face of the hiring manager this glue, and then she tried it out. It was a simple machine learning app. Basically what it does was to take your height and your shoes and your sex, and then it's going to tell you what your shoe size was. And then she tried it and it was correct, the prediction was correct, and she was like in the interview, oh, it's correct. Really, I felt like at that point that I got a job already, because you could see her face glow, you could see her happy that, oh, look at this guy is not just coming to tell me that he can build me a machine learning app. I can see it firsthand that he can do it. And that was a big difference, I believe, to them deciding to give me the job. Really, that must have been a big difference, because I wasn't just claiming that I attended the bootcamp. I wasn't just claiming something on a piece of paper. Actually, was showing them in real time what I could do. So one thing that you can do that can make you stand out when you're trying to get your first data role is to build project, put it on your GitHub, talk about it on LinkedIn, share it. If you build an app, a Streamlit app, a simple Streamlit app, oh man, that's even perfect, because then you give the hiring manager the possibility for them to play around what you've done, and then you can then walk them through the process. Oh, I built this using trees, and when I built this was what I did, this was the problems I encountered, and then I basically deployed it with Streamlit, and then you can try it out. Everybody likes a machine learning app they can try out, not a machine learning app they can see in code. And you know, the interesting part sometimes is the fact that your hiring manager might not even be a techie person, might not be someone that codes. So when you're trying to tell them, look at all of the fancy codes that I use this library is good, this library is fast, they might just not be able to grasp it until probably you're showing them something in real time to say, okay, this is what the app does, this is what the model does, this is what you get, this is what you see. And so that really sets you apart. Now, in conclusion, I have to say that I understand that right now the job market is crazy. There's a lot of people trying to get into their first data role. There are a lot of bootcamps that promise, oh, just come to us, we would get you a job, which is maybe sometimes true, sometimes not true. They support you, but that's not the aim of this video. What I'm just trying to say is that you can do these three things and it will make you stand out. The first thing you want to do is to send quality CVs. The second thing you want to do is you want to master the basics. The third thing you want to do is that you want to build projects. If you do those three things, I can guarantee you that you will stand out. You will stand out from